of Canine Magazine and the UK's leading dog adoption site, dogsblog.com, as August is National Dog Adoption Month. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to have you back with us. How long has Dogsblog been going for now?
Well, Dogsblog was actually set up in 2007, so it's only 3 years old, but we've recently gone past the 10,000th dog rehomed mark, so that was quite a landmark for us. And we actually thought what we would do along with Dogsblog is set up National Dog Adoption Month, which is actually going to run in September this year, along with our friends at Butcher's Pet Care, who've been kind enough to support it and really get behind the whole concept of people adopting a dog, because I think that for too long there's been something of a stigma associated with adopting a dog. Even the word rescue tends to suggest that the dog is in need of rescuing because it's maybe done something wrong. And what we found is actually opposite, in that adopting a dog is in fact one of the absolute best ways a person can go about getting a dog. And it's a strange situation, because if you go to a rescue and adopt a dog, you can literally get any type of dog. I mean, if anybody goes to dogsblog.com and has a look, I think they'll be stunned by the range of dogs that are looking for new homes. And as I was saying, if you go to a rescue, what you'll get is you'll get an expert that's seen the dog, assessed the dog, perhaps even done some training with the dog. You can pick a dog that's house trained, a dog that travels in a car, a dog that's got pretty much everything already known about it. It's likely to have already been neutered. It's probably going to be microchipped. And in most cases, all a rescue would actually do is ask you to make a donation. And so it's kind of a fantastic way to get a dog, and yet so many people are sort of going to their local ads papers and just picking up the nearest puppy that's been bred around the corner from where they live. So what we're saying is, getting a dog from a shelter is a fantastic way to get a dog. And also, the shelter in most cases, they won't let you take a dog that they think is unsuitable for your lifestyle. So it's like being guided on how to get the best dogs.
Paul?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ryan. How are you?
Afternoon, Paul. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
It's very interesting what you say here, because I'm just writing my next month's article about dog adoption.
That unfortunately that means there's, in the UK anyway, there's 100,000 dogs in shelters. So it's a real challenge to actually get some of those dogs out of the shelters and then stop the constant flow of dogs that are going into the shelters at just as fast a rate.
You also have connections with Spain and shelters over here, don't you?
In that what we've seen this year is an astonishing 80% rise in the number of people. It's really not that difficult, and it's just, I think sometimes people have maybe a rose-tinted view that if they go to the shelter, that some great new owner will turn up within 5 minutes and take the dog and give it a great life, and they can all go frolicking off into the sunset. Now that's an image that I think some dog owners try and create for themselves to make themselves feel. Now my experience is that isn't the reality, because of the sheer weight of numbers that are in shelters. The chances of the dog getting a new owner quite quickly is much slimmer than I think people actually realise. So what we would do is we'd encourage anybody who was thinking of giving their dog up on the basis that they do home quite quickly to have a rethink, because that isn't actually the reality.
But when we use the word abandoned, obviously it sounds like a really, and is, a terrible thing to do. But surely because of the credit crunch, there are some people who either have lost their jobs out here in Spain, for example, or can't find work, can't sell their house, need to go back to the UK and can't afford to take their pets with them. Is there an alternative to leaving your dog in a shelter if that is the case?
Well, my view is, and I suppose I'm quite hard line on this, in that when you take a dog on, you commit to that dog until it dies, basically. And we all know that we experience ups and downs, and our income is hard. But the reality is that a dog isn't bank-breaking to the point where, it's life or death. A dog, you can feed a dog for £1 a day, and ultimately, my sort of opinion on this would be, if you genuinely don't think you're resourced enough to have a dog, if you're really on the line, then getting a dog in the first place is the question that you need to ask. Because we've all seen homeless people that have dogs, and they look after their dogs phenomenally well. The dog doesn't ask for much. He asks for a shelter, some clean water, and something to eat every day. So I would always encourage people to really investigate whether or not they do need to give the dog up, because it's quite easy for people to say, we can't afford the dog anymore and we'll have to give it up. And unfortunately, in many cases, that is condemning a dog either to spend the rest of its life in a shelter, or even worse, have its life cut short through euthanasia. And this is the harsh reality of the situation that we are in, because of the sheer weight of numbers of dogs going into rescues.
When you put it like that, you can't really argue, Paul, can you?
Well,
Makes perfect sense.
Ryan knows we both sing from the same hymn sheet on this particular subject, and we've spoken about it privately off air. This is why I want a dog licence brought back into Europe. That means that if you don't pass a test, you won't be allowed to own a dog. End of story. Because it's going to cost you 10 grand for the entire life of that dog, approximately.
Absolutely. That's the figure people don't factor in. Paul's exactly right. In fact, we've tried to visualise it for people when they get dogs at Christmas, which is of course something that we all encourage people not to do, yet year after year people go out and do it. And the cost of getting a dog might be as little as 50 quid off some local breeder, but over the course of that dog's life you are talking about maybe £10,000. And so what we say to people is, look, if you think a dog is a cheap gift in the short term, you have to consider what you could get for £10,000 if you're just looking for a cheap thrill. You could hire a Ferrari for a week for £10,000. So what we try and do is put it into context for people that if you take a dog on, you really should be committing to that dog until the end of its natural life, because it didn't ask to be born, it didn't ask to be bred, and it didn't ask for you to come and take it on. So really, we have to address two things here. People who would just get dogs willy-nilly and aren't cut out to own them, and as bad as that, the people who are just indiscriminately producing dogs for no other reason than to earn some quick, easy cash, because there's a serious welfare knock-on effect of people who are being allowed to do that, and we're not addressing it with legislation.
Well, yeah, I guess, it's like if people run out of money and need to go back to the UK, people don't say, I can't afford to keep the children anymore, do they? So,
No, they don't.
So why should it be they say that about dogs?
I agree, and we all get tarred with the animal mad brush if we try and equate dogs to children, but certainly in my life, my dogs are a fully fledged member of my family, and I don't make any apologies for that. And so the idea of just giving a dog up, to me, it would have to be something literally life and death for me to have to do it. And that's not me saying I'm better than anyone else, it's just saying I sometimes think people think that giving the dog up for adoption is doing the dog a favour, and what I'm here to say is that isn't the reality of it.
Yeah. How's everything going at K9 magazine?
It's very good, thank you. Yeah, people still like reading about dogs, and we still find things to write about dogs. That's the great thing. I mean, that's the difference between dogs and cats, in that what we found, because we have got a cat magazine as well, in that cats are so independent that very often cat owners reflect that as well, in that, that they sort of have an on-off relationship with their cat. In fact, the best description I ever heard was this, that a dog is considered a member of the family and a cat's considered like a lodger. And so what we find with dogs is that we're constantly learning new things about dogs. Today we covered a story about a dog that's being used as a medical alert dog, because it's able to detect blood pressure rises and drops in its owner. And so I'm sort of constantly questioning, what haven't we yet learned about the dog? Because they're capable of so many amazing things. We've got cancer detection dogs and bomb detection dogs and earthquake detection dogs, and all of these things that the dog can do. He's always been able to do. The only thing that's changed is we've just worked out how to get it out of him. So my question is every day, what haven't we yet learned about the dog? And because of the fact I view this animal with such respect and admiration, it just makes it all the more heartbreaking to see so many of them in a welfare crisis.
Yeah. Well, this month is National Dog Adoption Month, so we can encourage people to go to all the animal shelters across Spain or wherever you're listening to the show and adopt a dog, but only if you can afford it. Is that the message?
Exactly. And the great thing is most times shelters will hold your hand. So if you think that you'd like to get a dog, just go and Google Dog Adoption Month, or go to your local shelter and just start the process of speaking to them. You'll find most shelters are very, very honest, and they'll tell you if you're not cut out.
Absolutely. Well, if people want to find out more about your adoption site, they can go to www.dogsblog.com. And is it possible to get Canine Magazine over here in Spain, Ryan? Can we?
It is indeed. We do a digital edition now, so we're fully embraced the 20th century. So absolutely, if anyone wants to go to caninemagazine.com, they can keep up to date with everything that we're up to.
Perfect. That's the letter K and the number 9, caninemagazine.com. Ryan O'Meara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.